Anybody who thinks about God or the lack of God, if we're if we're really committed to the idea of God, or if we're really committed to the idea that there isn't a God, then there are others who, I shouldn't say that. We are the others because we in our own lives, from time to time, were one way and then became another way. We were more conservative, and then as we aged, we became more liberal. Or we were more liberal, and as we aged, we became more conservative. Or we traveled a peculiar path in and out of these concepts while interacting other concepts that don't comfortably fit into that dichotomy. But one way or another, most of us in this essentially culture of the English language share some kind of common or woven or interspliced, intertwined history, therefore reality, therefore predilection for perception. Um, what I'm getting to is that we all have this inbuilt notion of God as a concept, whether to be embraced or whether to be rejected. And in both cases, the ways in which different people embrace the word, the concept behind the word, behind the image, behind the story, behind the religion, behind the history, behind the historiosity, behind the literary aspect, like behind the narrative, behind the mythos, behind the magic, behind everything. Whatever that notion is that any one individual is grabbing toward at any given time in their life, because I know certainly myself, that concept I've grabbed onto. I've been grabbing onto different branches of that tree. So I've never been at the same place, but I've been supported by the same central stock, the same central trunk. Though, there are a lot of trees growing around, and the canopy is this intermingling. So from time to time, when I thought I was on that tree, I was actually in the intertwined branches of the other tree. You know? So from time to time, I ended up on another tree. But I keep coming home. Keep coming to that central pyre. Uh, I have this tendency when I begin talking, I preface upon preface upon preface and never get to what I'm getting to. And I'd like to get to what I'm getting to. So what I was getting to with what I just all said was just that we have this notion of God, and it's like, so there's all these scholastics and academics and this, that, whatever, and as soon as we're thinking something, it's like almost like the exact moment we're like, I'm really going to look into this. I'm going to take this seriously. You know, we're thinking about God, we're thinking about philosophy, we're thinking about atheism, whatever. We're thinking about science, we're thinking about reason, we're thinking about real numbers, or wait, no, rational numbers, or wait, how does the geometry line up? And that looks like it's actually meeting, but what trigonometry table am I looking at? And then never mind looking in the mirror. But at some point, we just have to recognize within ourselves that me, you, them, they have a notion of what God is. And in each of us, it's not just the theology, it's not just the philosophy, it's mostly just the common everyday interactions, the colloquialisms, the sayings. What some people, when they're talking about the Bible, they say dark sayings, which is also just like slang. But slang is dark sayings, and one of the problems is when we say dark sayings, we hype so much up on it, even though it is completely, infinitely like a dark saying, a dark metaphor, well, a hidden metaphor. Well, you say something and you mean something else, or you say something because there's one way of saying a metaphor where you say one thing but you mean another, but there are other types of metaphors that are stacked, cascading, telescoping meanings of some sayings. For whatever reason, the way story harmonizes, just like rational numbers, just like ratios, which are infinite, by the way, a type of infinity that these days isn't looked at much. Or at least that's the scuttlebutt. All I wanted to do was talk about a particular common notion I have. Common to some, foreign to others. But I very much have a very common notion sense of God, philosophy, everything. I get a lot from my phone, and I've gotten a lot from my phone and the internet and technology. And I've gotten a lot just from, living life. To my estimation, mostly very poorly. I've lived a poor life. I'm not impoverished in a sense, but I've lived impoverished. I have an impoverished spirit. I still possess an impoverished spirit, very much so. I don't know if I'm going to make it. What do I mean by that? I don't know if I'm going to succeed. Well, what's success? Success is making... I have lived a better life than most people who have ever lived. And that makes me feel embarrassed. It makes me feel shameful. But it also imbues a responsibility upon me. And in so much as I do anything at all, I speak to that, even though I live my life differently. In so much as I really stick to myself because I'm terrified. And the only thing that keeps me from fucking, ending this whole project is the idea. Some imagination, some ideas, some conceptions of the future are fiddle faddle. Nothing. Just smoke. Other conceptions, other ideas, other imaginations might be considered prophecy, might be considered ends that all of truth is reaching towards. Oh, well, it's just random. You're not allowed to talk about randomnity. Randomnity. You're not allowed to talk about random shit unless you study math. And then it's like, well, how do you mathematically, right? Because people talk about random. But there's really actually no, like, to get to a definition of random, The word random assumes a kind of infinity that doesn't exist. Infinities exist, but only certain kinds, and like the word random, wholesale, flat out, full bore, random, actually doesn't exist. So Nietzsche killed God. Well, today I kill the word random. Right? People say I'm not just a statistic. You're right and you're wrong. Here's the way you're right. The way today we use the word statistic, by that definition, yes, you're kind of like right. I'm not a statistic. Yes. But have you enough data points? Then actually you are a statistic. That's exactly what you are. A statistic, a stasis, a place, a position, a standing. We stand. Even when we're running, even when we're falling, even when we're dancing, even when we're down, we're upright. So long as we're standing. We have stasis. We're a statistic. It's just a matter of if those curves, what those curves describe. I'll tell you this. Because the majority of us make the bell curve. The majority of us make the statistic. And if I, as I have, or if you, as you probably have, definitely have, say, I'm an outlier. I've defied the statistics on this particular something. Sure enough, you fulfilled 100 others. Right? Me too. 1,000. I'm the worst. I'm probably the worst. All I wanted to talk about was, God, I just went on and on and on. Well, it's not too bad. 12 minutes. Take a breather. I ain't proud of it. Alright. Yeah, so God hovered above the waters of the deep. So I'm gonna ask your permission to just speak freely. I've talked about this before, but not much. And it's a big point. Because I'm always talking to my audience. I'm always talking to, if I'm talking to my camera, I'm talking to some sort of amalgamation, some amorphous form that in my mind somehow represents my mom, my dad, my brother, my nana, my bumpy, my grandpa, my Grammy, my aunt, my auntie, my auntie, my uncle, or like my second cousin, uncle. I'm not sure what to call him, so I'm just like, hey, how's it going? How you doing? I'm always talking to my friends I grew up with. I'm always talking to the bully. I'm always talking to the girl I want to cuddle with. Or maybe sometimes I'm talking to the girl I want to lay with. doing all these things. And I'm always trying to get to the point where I'm talking to myself. The thing is, I'm afraid, like, I've explored intellectually just little pockets of like, so there's this whole huge school, and I've studied this little pocket and this little pocket and this little pocket, and there's this whole huge school, and I've studied this little pocket and this little pocket and this little pocket, and there's this whole huge school, and I've studied this little pocket and this little pocket and this little pocket, you know? And it's just like, I can't speak to the school, I can't speak to the school, I can't speak to the school, but like, I've taken a little treasure from every castle, and I've amassed this treasure, and I've looked at it separately, and I've seen these connections and these ways these puzzle pieces fit together differently than this school or that school or the other school is saying. And I feel just so compelled, never mind what I've learned on my own. Like, for instance, today, you know, just by observing, I've been painting. I'm a house painter. I've been painting at a house that's ironically enough up on Jericho. Well, it's off Jericho Hill. Sugartop Road. Sugartop Road off Jericho Hill, man. It's like the most beautiful song waiting to be written. Sugartop Hill off Jericho Road. Private property. Anyway, there's this beautiful, sprawling farm for sheep. So you drive up this long driveway, and it's got to be 3/4 of a mile, if not a mile, of a driveway. And this sprawling U shape. It must be 80 acres. It must be 80 acres for these fucking sheep. And it's this old couple. I don't know what the guy's gig is, except for that he's like, my guess is 70. And he's out there clipping trees, chopping wood, mowing up the land. If he had a different job, he's retired. His wife is a judge. Being a contemplative person, if you could call me that, you might just call me crazy. Schizo madman. I'm definitely the last two. Yeah, it's just like a song, man. Sugartop Road off Jericho Hill. Sprawling, U-shaped pasture on the side of an enormous fucking... It's enormous in the way it feels. It's not enormous in comparison to Everest. Those lambs, as lambs go, got it fucking good. And it's funny because the first time one at me, I went running because it was looking at me. I was just in an opportune time. I felt like I'd done pretty good with work that day. It depends how I feel as to how much liberty I give myself at work. You know, when you go to the restroom or the water cooler or the fucking snack bar or whatever. Felt like, I did all right today. And as soon as that, I saw that sheep looking at me and going, bah. And I was like, he's talking to me? And he's still looking at me and going, bah. And I'm still asking myself, is he talking to me? Bah. So it's just like a couple seconds, and I'm like, pew, I just start walking to them. As soon as I do, all of them come, you know. Now, I might just be imagining some kind of part of that interaction. Clearly, he was communicating, she most probably was communicating to me, and but it might just have been like, hey, I'm over here, you got anything? You know? Might have just been like a dude on the corner, like, hey, you're a person, sometimes people give me shit. You got anything to give me? It could have just been like that. Hey, man, what you holding, you know? Maybe it was just like that. Maybe it was deeper. We don't know. But it was a communication, clear as fucking day, eye to eye, mouth to ear. Eye to eye, mouth to ear. Anyway, I went over. It was nice. Yeah, there's a nice story there. But I won't live long enough to write all the stories or to sing all the songs. Never mind writing. So, just gotta say what I gotta say. Let it go. God hovered above the waters of the deep. So yeah, that was actually that idea I have about an hour's worth of content for. Maybe I'll never get to it. And maybe you can pick up on it. Because maybe I've left enough in the underbelly for you to reach the conclusion on your own. I hope so. I always hope so. Because I never get to what I'm getting to. Because I never talk to me like I'm talking to me. But if I only talk to me the way I talk to me, I'd be using terms that are harder to get to. So I gotta talk to me the other ways I talk to me. Which is most of the ways I talk to me. The way I most prize the way I talk to myself is a way that I'm not able to verbalize. So I do my best to try to hit every level of the verbalations I'm familiar with to get to what I'm getting to. Hopefully for you. And me too. Give and take, give and take, give and take. But it's not give and take. It's not give and take. It's share and grow. Because it's share. This is share. This is the circle of life. The circle of life is good because it recognizes connection. And for those of us who think that we're just in this fucking... The circle of life is an improvement. But it's not a circle of life because it's not a give and take. It's not a barter. It's an ascending, circular spiral upward of shared, it's sharing. It's not give and take, it's sharing. And it's a sharing of continual, increased value. The way we think of money and economics these days, the way we think of social exchange, the way we think of monetary exchange, the way we think of spiritual exchanges, the way, yeah. If we're trying to be academic or scholastic or institutional about it, we might be like, equal exchange. Well, we give equal exchange. We're going to give you something of value and you're going to give us something of value. Meanwhile, what we all know is really going on. Not all the time and not everywhere, but a lot, is I'm going to tell you this is worth more than it is, and I'm going to suck you and get more. There's a lot of that. Or at least, at the very least, there's a lot of that suspicion. We do that to others, yet we appeal to that part of ourselves that doesn't do that and gives more. But anyway, at the very least, equal exchange doesn't work because the philosophy of equal exchange does not work. Why? Because equal exchange tends toward entropy. And when things are balanced, the easiest thing to do is drop. We're not trying to teeter-totter, right? Equal exchange, well, how do you go up from there? You go up if the other guy goes down, right? But if you're equal and you see the other guy relaxed, you drop down fast, you kick that motherfucker off. Now, of course, then you're all the way down, but relatively, you're all the way up because he down there laying and you sit. And you knew beforehand, so maybe you standing. The up and up. The up and up. It's not the up and down. It's the up and up. To be on the up and up. This ascending spiral. Instead of equal exchange, the way we need to think of like money, the way we need to think of spiritualism or community is give more, give more. Now, I say that. But I'm saying that the same way Ben Franklin said, get up early in the morning. He was right, even though he slept in late. He wrote this book about how much bread he begged. Then when he was older and had the chance, he was kicking up skirt tails in France. Not he alone. So, I'm no model. I don't do these things. But in some sense, I'm taking a risk as a post-middle-aged drunkard talking about morality. But, as it turns out, talking is work. It's a lot of work. I'm not asking for your money, but I'm asking for your consideration. I guess, well, I'll say this. God hovered above the waters of the deep. The waters of the deep are the undifferentiated soul. There's all souls, and then there's the soul of souls. God, the soul of souls. God is the soul of souls, the center of the body. The soul is the center of the body. The soul is the center of the spirit. Not all spirits are aligned with. Not all spirits are aligned. Alright, I'm just going to talk the way I talk to myself. Just to get it out there, at least for myself, as a diary entry. Like, not all souls are aligned with. Can I do this? Sorry. Please forgive me for my. I guess this is a kind of confession. I like to drink, I like to smoke. It's not good, it ain't right. A lot of sober people kill themselves. A lot of people on pharmaceutical drugs kill themselves. A lot of people who listen to the doctors kill themselves. What other species commits suicide? Why? Anyway, I don't want to go there, but I know it's fucked up for someone as fucked up as me to talk about this kind of thing, but that's part of the reason, I guess, that I consider. So, in so much as I consider it, I would ask you to, but I would also ask you to refute it. Like, I do not want you to be like me, but if you're like me and you think about these things, right? Because there is an underserved population, and that population is me. Like, I'm really broken, bad. And it kind of seems like I'm not going to get there. That I might not even be saved at all. Like, I might be going straight to hell. But those of us destined for hell, right? There are many destined for hell, I guess, who, in self delusion, embrace that idea. And I don't even want to blame them for that. Because this butcherous existence leaves little wiggle room for truth. But for those of us who worship the truth and who are destined for hell, imagine how much more in hell the fire burns, having worked for the fire of hell. There's the other fire, the fire of truth. The icicles of hell. Or whatever shape, whatever dynamic, whatever is the dynamic crystal of hell, and however fluid its lines are between nexes. The funny thing, and it's not very funny, but the funny thing about hell is that until the demons of hell are set back in their place, because hell is not only populated by demons, hell is populated by demons and souls. Souls captivated by the demons of hell. Until hell as we know it is an established harmonic of accumulated error. Accumulated error creates a harmonic. That harmonic creates a centralized pattern. Its center isn't, but everything that swirls around it behaves as though its center is, and it's not. I don't pretend that I'm not only captivated, but completely, not just captivated, not just entranced, but held in rotation by the gravitational pull of the story that explains the place where truth isn't. Hell is the ultimate. Hell is infinitely far from God, in a way. Not really. But it's almost uncomputational. But it is computation. Envisions as shapes and atmospheres. I'm getting too far away. God hovered above the waters of the deep, or something like that. That's how it's condensed in my mind. So now I'm just going to say it, and I hope to get back to it someday. As a note, finally, after this 36 minutes, once again, I keep coming upon about that time. For some reason. Am I? Right? There's nothing. So, all souls contained by one soul. All souls, all points contained in a point. In the point, in that point just before the Big Bang, everything. I mean, this universe is so huge, but we fail to properly consider all of that was in one fucking point. Therefore, that point is structured. Free will determines the structure of a point. So what do I mean by that? If you look at universal hyperbolic geometry and this is paperwork. Norm Wildberger, University of South Wales. And I'm sorry even for referencing him because he's so much bigger and smarter and more important than me, but like this is actually kind of an important philosophical point, is that whatever we can do with the Apollonian null circle of universal hyperbolic geometry, whatever we can do with that, we can do with a point. Because there are rationally, not just real, not just in the real numbers, not just in the complex numbers, but rationally, there are infinite ways to deal with the Apollonian null circle. And all of those ways can be condensed all the way infinitely down to a point, so you have a structured point. The feedback loop between this world that we live and eternity. Heaven and God as we know it. God hovered above the waters of the deep. What does that mean? That means God was the first differentiated soul. In eternity, all souls exist undifferentiated. There aren't individuals. It is the veil. The veil, as we can come to know it, now I'm talking to a different audience, but the veil as we can come to know it is that realm of undifferentiated souls. It's a little bit like when we're talking about like the difference between like plasma and gas. I don't know much about science, but I know enough to know that like in some way when we're talking about plasma and gas, we're talking about something wholly different. Because we're talking about the sub part, like when we're talking about plasma, in a sense, so far as I can in my layaway think, and I'd very much welcome clarification for where I'm wrong, but like when we're talking about quote unquote plasma, we're talking about something that exists almost below the level, below the resolution of atoms, and we're looking at subparticle configurations free from atomic configurations in a way. And if that doesn't shatter reality, I don't know what does. as we know it. It's like that REM song. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's not the end of the world. It depends what we mean by world, because world does not mean earth. World historically, boiled down, phonetically, historically, mythologically, that word, world, means our standing, our dynamic standing in existence. It means the way in which we interact, define. It's very much related to the Whorfian hypothesis. The Whorfian hypothesis is one of the reasons I'm not that interested in Noam Chomsky. I think Noam Chomsky is a very, very good man. Very good man. And I agree with him a bit more lately than I have. Yeah. No one's really picked up Worf's mantle in the same way that, or I shouldn't say in the same way, but in a proportion, not proportional, not similar. Worf has flat out been kicked to the curb. Despite that, I don't know, 10 years ago, there's this Radiolab report, and it had to do with these people who spoke a certain language that once you understood it, it created basically a GPS in your fucking brain. One of the most important things ever talked about. We should all learn that language, huh? So there's a language where people who speak to each other create overview GPS in their fucking mind's eye. It's documented on NPR, nonetheless. And people are like, oh, that's cool. Never mind the fact that it could revolutionize. Like, if that's true, it was on Radiolab on NPR. It's kind of about as true as it gets these days. If it's on Radiolab on NPR, like, actually these days, that's about as true as it gets. So you learn this language and you get a GPS in your fucking brain, and you can see where people are and where you are on an overlay grid in a map in your mind by learning a language. Really? Oh, that's interesting. Interesting? The most important discovery in fucking human existence? Oh, that's nice. Are we having ice cream or custard for dessert? You know, like, what the fuck? God hovered above the waters of the deep. Before any soul came to be, God came to be as the soul of souls. Everything else, right? Because so long as there was one soul hovering above, or hovering on, the waters of the deep, undifferentiated souls, all of us together, yet we're different, yet we're the same, yet we're different, and this kind of change or thing is happening, these waters of the deep. And then one, an individual, one, an individual, a something, a voice. All of a sudden, in this dream nothing, this question arose. This question. Am I? Am I? Am I? God hovered above the waters of the deep. Me, you, everyone, everything. Me? I am? That was still a question. That was the second. Before the Big Bang. Am I? Am I? The moment before the Big Bang. I am? The Big Bang. I am! Not, I am! Just that little. That's how much order it took to explode. Order. How did order explode? In that waters of the deep, there was no I am. There couldn't even be we are. It's just isness. Raw, random, or rather, a balanced charge of potentiality. And then some kind of mind mint, recognized itself and something else, which was everything. All that it took in terms of order was that one thing, not saying, I am that I am, before you were, I am. That's not how it is. Because the first I am was like, I am. Between those two, that's the I am. That's the alpha. Which just sounds like, oh, you're cheapening it. No. That was the first thought. That was the first impetus. That was the first awareness. That was the first consciousness. Nothing for eternity, forever, so to speak. Something. Even God has an underbelly, so to speak. And he fucking bore it like this. Here's my underbelly in your face. So far as the story goes. Oh, the story's not real. Yeah. As soon as one thing. Because when God is the soul, is the individual of all individuals, rose above the waters of the deep, God said, I am. Well, what is God? God's a focal point. Are the waters of the deep flat? Are the waters of the deep a globe? Are the waters of the deep a bowl? Are they in a parabola? When God hovers above the waters of the deep, is God in the focal point of a parabola? Is God the mirror? I am. As soon as God said, I am, it activated. Because God's that focal point of that bowl of the waters of the deep. And everything got reflected upon. But because of free will, now God's a special case. God said, God had the luxury of being the first to question for eternity. Am I? Am I? Am I? Am I? Am I? So in a sense, that's God's power. What grants God God's power? I'm just doing a thought experiment, by the way. I'm just thinking out loud. What granted God God's power? God is the only soul that in time, as expressed, God is the only soul that had the luxury of contemplating forever the question, am I? At the end of forever, in eternity, God recognized at a moment, I am. And that was enough to set the whole ball rolling, to set the whole wheel spinning. At that exact moment, every other potential soul fled. I shouldn't say every other. But free will was introduced. How many souls are there? How many souls have there been? How do we define a soul? Not a bad place to look to Leibniz and the monad. And also recognize that when he said this is just shit I read, but it makes sense, so I'm just putting it in there, is that when Leibniz wrote the monadology, he had to mind his P's and Q's so they didn't fucking cut his throat. When he said that the monad was windowless, that in his quote-unquote secret writings he wrote that the monad was windowed. But he tried to put it there between the lines. He was a master of, both him and Newton, masters of cryptography. So, there's that. Not any other soul had the chance to contemplate forever, am I or I am, a much shorter time, every soul along the way. And for instance, when there were no other souls, when it was just God and the waters of the deep, there was nothing to repel so long as he just kept saying, am I? No. Am I? No. Am I? No. Am I? No. So God had the luxury of infinite no's. God had the luxury of just being like, am I? No. Am I? Nope, you're not. Am I? Nope. Am I? Nope, you're not. You're not. You ain't. You ain't. They ain't no you. I'm not. I'm not. No, I'm not. But I'm thinking, but you're not. You're not. You're not thinking. Okay, I'm not thinking. Okay. I'm not. Am I? Nope. Am I? Nope. Right. Because there was nothing to repel off of that. Because it was just God above the waters of the deep. But as soon as God said, I am. Now, God was the mirror of the waters of the deep. Am I? No. 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 But as the focal point above the waters of the deep, where all of us were before individuated, I'm speaking in metaphors. I'm doing my best. At that moment, God said, I am. Then the universe responded. Now, souls started being differentiated like motherfucking crazy. And it was yeses or nos because of free will. And we're talking down to the fucking nuts and bolts of things. We're not just talking about people. Choices were being made. Am I or am I not? So free will began. That repulsion. That's what started God in the waters of the deep. At that moment just exploded. Started pushing away. And that's what is the expansion of the universe. So when we say that the universe is expanding, that space itself is expanding, it's not really like that. There will come a we still exist in we still exist in a cosmos where there are more souls. There are more souls that proclaim they are not than there are souls that proclaim they are. There are more souls that say, no, I'm not. I'm not. I don't exist. I'm not. Than there are souls that say either. And not, once again, I'm not talking about souls that say, I am. I'm talking about souls that say one of two things in a spectrum, and that, okay, I am. I am. Would be up here, a point up here, or maybe more appropriately, a point down here. But we'll call it a point up here. I am. But then on this side we have, I am. And then on this side we have, you know, in the face of that brutality. So I'm not as big as a planet. I'm not big as a tree. I'm not big as this house. I'm not big as the sun. They're all big, they're all powerful. But they can't do this. There ain't no sun that can do this. There's no sun, there's no planet, there's no tree, there's no mountain. Yet I am that sun, I am that tree, I am that mountain. I'm a form in this material world. I'm an unfolded mathematical object possessed by spirit. All that. I'm an object. I seem autonomous in so much as automata, in so much as not anonymity, autonomy, in so much as autonomy is. In so much as autonomy is, I'm about as autonomous as it gets, right? You, me, you know, people folk. God hovered above the waters of the deep. At that moment, after forever, or a sub forever, an inverse forever, a below one fraction of forever, a negative less than one fraction. I don't know. I don't know what it would be, but below that, when God was alone and didn't know that God was, certainly didn't know God was God. Am I? Am I? Am I? I am. So what happened? A bunch of shit started saying, yes, I am, but more shit was saying, I'm not, no, I'm not. But those ones who burn in hell, so to speak, those ones who said, I am not, they didn't have the forever God had. They didn't maybe have the luck or the opportunity or the faith that you had. Yet, that circle, because it's the I am, and it spreads out, except it falls. It's just like gravity. I'm not, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not. I'm not is that gravity that pulls down. That's the universe expanding. So it seems like it's getting farther and farther apart, and space is dripping. So this is where we are. And this is God. And there's a central line of those who have gotten it. And they're in the kingdom. And then there are those of us who are out here who believe and don't believe. And either way, we're ready to just let everyone go. Just let everyone go. Drop the weight. Drop the bag. You're on that cliff and you're holding your friend. And you're afraid you're both going to die. And there's that part of you saying, let him go. Live. And then that good part of you says, we both die or we both live.